Please take your journal hymnal and turn to page 670. We will continue our study in the Shorter Catechism. Today, we have come to question 69. As always, I will read the question and let the congregation in unison read the answer with me. Question 69 of the Shorter Catechism states, what is forbidden in the sixth commandment? The sixth commandment forbiddeth the taking away of our own life, or the life of our neighbor, unjustly, or whatsoever tendeth thereunto. Jason did a wonderful job of trying to explain the importance of terms. When you recall the previous two questions that has passed by before this one, we have the introduction to the sixth commandment, and likewise what followed logically was what was required. And he brought up a good point. If the humanist wants to take something out of context, they use their terms also, actually also very calculated. And so, just to give you a mindset and continue that kind of theme, we will look at that question here as well. So, in thinking, especially reading what we just read in the scriptures about what we heard in the conquest of AI, the humanist can automatically go to that scripture and say, aha, your God is a cruel God. But for what reason would you specify that he's cruel? What moral right do you have to show that this was based on cruelty? I mean, if we just look at it in terms of a human being, when something gets personal, they want to seek some sort of recompense or some sort of justice on their own behalf. But for some reason, when we consider it on behalf of others, the feeling is not equitable. So let's consider our question here. Our key term here is the word unjustly. And don't confuse it with the thinking of being something that's actually unlawful. Because something could be legally permitted, but that wouldn't make it something that is actually justified. So let's define. Something that is unlawful is in a manner that is not permitted or recognized by laws or by rules. So we just considered, if we look at our present state today, and that we use, how would I say this properly without getting in trouble? We use the decisions made by the Supreme Court and the way they interpret the laws that are made in Congress. And I think you kind of see where I'm going with this. And I'll probably give you a year, 1972, with a court decision of 7-2 that has affected our country and has allowed a lot of people to do something that is lawful, but then is it justifiable? Is it something that can be justified? Which then takes me to my next term. What does it mean to be unjust? It is a matter that is not in accordance with what is morally right or fair. See the importance in the key words and terms. And it's very important to think about it because in the aspect of how the divines actually wrote the answer, it plays well within the understanding of what we are forbidden to do when trying to uphold this commandment. Now, mind you, we don't have a lot of time to expound it, but if we did, you can really break this commandment down even more. But our answer looks at twofold, the life of our own and the life of our neighbor. If you really want to get to the crux of it, I wanted to make a research in terms of, through the dispensation of time, what people have done in just being very, I want to say astute, but being creative in how to show forth their sins. When we consider the first murder that was done through time, it was Cain striking his brother. And through all the time, we have various ones that have made the history books, and we can note them piece by piece by piece. But then, in terms of the two premises, the life of our own and the life of our neighbor, where the line kind of draws is none of them is permitted, but and where one can be on the other, is there justification? And that's where I want to draw your attention to. Because you see, when Jason had brought that up, the lawful killing of people, it was for the understanding of the recompense, the justice that God demanded on the behalf, the blood token for another blood token. But then what about our own life? I'm trying to tell you now, there is no point in a justification to take your own life. But through the dispensation of time, we've seen it, and there's parts in Scripture that shows when one has so much pride, rather than to die in the hands of their enemies, they took their own life. I can take you back to Saul, when he was being overtaken by the Philistines, and coming to the point where he was on the point of death. He told his own men, "Draw out your sword and pierce me, otherwise these uncircumcised will pierce me and make sport of me." That's not right. Then, think about it this way. I have an allegiance, and for some sort of reason I am compelled that I'm going to take my life because my fellow man did the same. The little crux here, Romeo and Juliet, is not biblical. Just because your boyfriend died doesn't mean you gotta kill yourself. And I'm here to tell you, it won't fly. But nonetheless, this is not the premise in order to take your life. Again, how about if you don't do well at a job? In the financial business, many men, especially in 2008, lost a lot of money. And there were stories about people opening the windows from 60-story foot buildings, whether it's an Empire Building or the Sears Tower in Chicago, and they were dropped like concrete. I'm telling you, that is not a reason to justify and take your life. But why so? Why would that be the case? People think in this life, just because we suffer, it just means that God must, for some reason or another, have a vendetta against us. That is not the case. Whether good or bad, it is to our good and to His glory. So there's no reason for you to take on the initiative, because remember, you do not own your own body. It is given in personal obedience to Christ. Because that was the clear understanding of what you vowed to when you first became a Christian, to be obedient to Christ in all the things that you do, in word, in thought, and in deed. So the use of your own body falls under that category. So if that is the case, is it also lawful to have someone assist you in remedying your ailments or terms? And you can kind of see where I'm getting here. I'm going to be careful again about my terms. Assisted suicide, though lawful, is not something that is deemed justifiable. Yes, you are plagued by a terminal illness that we, in our own eyes now, based on empiricism, can see there seems to be no hope. But that doesn't necessitate that where God has put you in this time span, that this cannot be for some reason, that it shows to someone else or to the world His workings in your life, especially if you are a Christian. Consider you have a terminal illness. Doctor says you have X amount of time to live. You're 60 years old. All of a sudden, 20 years later, you're blowing out the candles on your 80th birthday. I guess that doctor really knew what he was talking about. You cannot lose faith in the work of God in your life. You must be faithful no matter what it is. But let me not digress. Also, from the look of our question, we see the understanding we cannot take our lives at any point in any fashion. But also, going back, the lives of others. We cannot take them unjustly. We already explained the just recompense to do for blood token. But then there are terms where you just can't go out of your way just to find recompense, and it's unjustifiable. For example, if you notice that someone is in need of help in terms of food or the warmth. I'm not saying to go just out of your way and say, I'm going to help everybody in the world in terms of putting food and clothing above them. But if you have the means, lend out the hand. For why? We already know the promise that the Messiah made in Matthew 25. To the least of them you do that work, you did it on to me. Again, how about considering not only just your health, but also the health of others? So don't drag someone, if, like I said, if you're having issues in your world and you're considering about taking your own life, and if someone's trying to stop you and you're going to threaten their life as well, that's not considerable. Be faithful unto God, and He will seek you out, and He will make you through and give you counseling. The same thing when we consider about people in fights and the ways of being hateful words and having some sort of quarrel that you want to start something. No, that is a violation of the law. You want to be meek and mindful. It is not on you to go start something with a bruiser and expect God to be on your side and thinking about winning you that war. Do not be that, I wouldn't say stupid, but don't be ignorant. Be mindful. You want to be at peace with all men. This is a way to uphold this commandment. And likewise, our Messiah said it well himself. If you have the conditions of hateful anger or envy, desire revenge, excessive passion, He wants you to understand you violate the law. Because even though the law speaks on the physical, do not kill. Remember, it extends more to the spiritual. How about the quarrelsome words that you may oppose another person? How about the fact that you are not upholding your brother in the faith? The Lord wants you to understand in Matthew 5:21, I say to everyone who is angry with his brother, he shall be guilty before the court. And whoever says to your brother, you good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. But whoever says you fool shall be deserved enough into hellfire. Consider the Messiah is trying to show you. The law just doesn't apply physically. It also applies spiritually. And the expectation of upholding it takes your full court. This is why, again, here, and the brothers have said it in various ways, but it means one thing. The summary of the Ten Commandments is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And unto understanding that, with the outworking flow to the second, how you understand how to love your fellow man. With that being said, please stand.